Novi Public Library Board of Trustees, October 26, 2023. So we rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask Secretary Bartlett to do the roll call.
Trustee Chair Curry.
Present.
Trustee Crawford.
Here.
Trustee Dooley is absent, excused. Trustee Gawalapu.
Present.
Trustee Garamurti.
Present.
Trustee Stirring.
Present.
Trustee Bartlett is here.
Thank you. And our new student representatives, 2 seats have been filled, and they will be here next month, November 16th. Next item is the approval of the agenda. The agenda is in our packet. Any comments to the agenda?
Move to approve.
Support.
and supported. Any discussion? If not, Secretary, would you call the roll?
Trustee Crawford?
Yes.
Trustee Galapu?
Yes.
Trustee Gurmurty? Trustee Stirring?
Yes.
Trustee Bartlett votes yes. Trustee Chair Curry?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the approval of the minutes for last meeting, September 28, 2023, regular board meeting, and it also includes the approval of the claims and warrants for accounts 271 and 272. Those are contained in our booklet, pages 12 through 14. Any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, move to approve. It's been seconded. Any discussion? If not, I'd ask the Secretary to call the roll again.
Trustee Galapu?
Yes.
Trustee Gurmurty? Trustee Stirring?
Yes.
Trustee Bartlett votes yes. Trustee Chair Curry?
Yes.
Trustee Crawford?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Great. We're honored tonight to have a little presentation by the Novi Community Coalition in their annual report. Debbie Wirtz, and I think you want to introduce some other people as well.
Good evening. Yes, I have Liz here. I'll introduce her a little bit into the presentation. I won't take too much of your time. I just want to thank you for letting us come and update you on some things we've been doing with partnering with the library. We really value our partnership with the library. Our whole organization, we're a nonprofit too here in Novi. There are 21 of us coalitions in Oakland County in the different school districts. And we work at reducing risk factors, promoting those protective factors, really want to improve the wellness and cut down on substance misuse in the community. So we collaborate with a lot of different organizations, and here in Novi, the library, Julie, has just been amazing. We have done other programs throughout the year. We just had this month a presentation partnered with Care House on the request of the police department. They're seeing a rise in sexual abuse cases. So we brought in Care House to talk to parents on how to talk to your kids, at what age and what terminology to use, and what's the difference between a secret and a surprise. And I thought they did a really great job. We had it over at the library. Numbers attending weren't very high, but the ones we did show up really appreciated it. So we partner on the Novi Mental Health Alliance Committee. So we have different presentations throughout the year on that. We have partnered during May for the Mental Health Month. Last year we did over 100 worry boxes for the younger kids. And the worry box is a box that they could take home. It was a grab bag, and all the supplies were in the bag. And they made their own little worry box, so when they were worrying something, especially at bedtime, they could draw a picture, write it down, put it on a piece of paper, and put it in their box. And the box is going to take care of that worry, so they could get a good night's sleep. And then they visit that box like a week later and see if they're still worrying about it. Just a kind of a coping skill. And then we worked in the Teen Space Center, and we had other grab bags with more teen coping skills and information and resources for teens and stuff like that. So it was we did over, I think, 100 bags for the teens too. So, we did yoga. It was just a great month for mental health. One program that I'm here to talk about is our Community Outreach Resource Program, which is very passionate about it. And basically, if you're not familiar, the resource program basically is bridging that gap between our residents and the different services that are out there. When people are going through a challenging time or they need some help or assistance, it gets really overwhelming. And there are places out there that give you, here's a list of resources. But sometimes people don't know how to take that first step. They don't know what to do, and they get very overwhelmed. We work with them. We sit down with them. We talk with them with dignity and respect. And then we help empower them and help connect them to the needed services. We kind of give them almost like homework and goals. And then we follow up with them. Okay, did you do this? Now do you need a copy? A lot of them don't have internet service, so we'll connect them with that. We advertise it different places. We have brochures in your packet. There is a brochure, a little postcard that we have been using that is put on social media that has been sent out to over 3,000 local addresses. The library sends out stuff. We have it posted all over the place. We are in the future going to work on promoting a little bit more because I don't think enough people do know about this. The library is gracious enough to work with us to give us some office hours because we were struggling. Our office is at the high school. We just can't have people walking in the high school. And we're somewhere that people feel safe, right? And the library was just perfect. So on Thursdays, we are up in the history room. And people can just walk in, they can call us and make an appointment. And if they can't come in on Thursday, we can talk with them and work with them through email or through text messages or phone calls. They don't have to come in that Thursday, we can meet them other times, but that's a nice time that people can just kind of walk in. We talk with them, we find out what they're looking for. It could be home repair services, it could be food, it could be job. They're looking for a job and need help. So we have people that come to us for several different reasons, and we just kind of help to empower them and bridge that gap. I do have some statistics here of funding for it. So this originally started with a grant through United Way and Oakland County. That was like a year-long grant that helped supplement our funds to run this program. Since then, that has run out, but we feel very passionate about it. So the Novi Community Coalition has been funding it and paying. We have a community outreach person that is there on Thursdays and receives the phone calls and text messages and stuff like that and the emails. So the coalition now is continuing to fund the program. When we first reported here back between May 2022 and September 2022, we had 19 people that reached out for assistance. We had 38 hygiene bags that were given out. So we also do have these hygiene bags that we just put different necessities in there: toothbrush, some body wash, some shampoo, just some little hygiene things, and we put in a bag and people can come pick them up at no charge. And then we also started doing these resource cards in the bathroom. The library kind of brought up that, they sometimes see some people in the library and, in the bathrooms that maybe that would be a good place to have some kind of small card that maybe they could put in their pocket, especially if there's human trafficking going on or something like that. They don't want the person they're with to know about it. So the library, we made these little cards, like business-sized cards. They're in a little holder in the bathrooms. And in the beginning, we went through 19 of them. I don't have the exact count how many we have gone through today, but I will tell you we have gone through a ton of them. Every time we go in the bathroom, they're gone, so people are taking them. They've been being updated and making them a little bit easier to read, but people are taking them, so it's definitely been a great resource to have. Since September 2022 and currently, we have had 35 new cases. Again, when someone comes in, there's no telling how long their case is going to be open. It could be something very quickly that, it just takes 1 or 2 visits, or someone could be with us for quite a while if we are really working on several different areas, a job and housing and stuff like that. So the number of open cases really varies throughout the course. We have done over 20 hygiene bags. We did start getting some people coming in and grabbing like all the hygiene bags, So we're not verifying income or anything like that, but we are having them sign when they do take a hygiene bag, so they don't clean us out in one setting. And then again, the help cards in the bathroom, I am not sure exactly what those numbers are. Our goal was to keep track of that counting. One of our challenges has been we have had a high turnover at the coalition and staff. We have gone through 3 staff members, our community outreach. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. I don't think it's any reflection on us. It's just the times trying to get someone, to stay. Help nowadays is really hard. So we have gone through a few different people. We have someone in there now that is wonderful that I think is going to stick around for a long time. So I'm very hopeful about that. So hopefully our next year we'll have a lot better data to report back to you on that. I do have a success story that's on the back page of yours, just an example of something that we do that is very impactful. So we had a mom come to us that her daughter is in Novi schools and was missing a lot of school because she could not get into the after school care, and dad had passed away. It was mom and the daughter, and she had no one to watch the child after school so she could work. The only one she had was family member in like Livonia. So the child ended up missing a lot of school days. So she came to us asking for help. So we reached out to a couple places and we partnered up with a local sports place. They come, they pick her up after school. They are paying for her after school care. And I got a picture of her here. Mom was just unbelievable, grateful, because now the child, there's no reason for her, not to keep missing school so much. So little things like that really make a big difference in someone's life that you don't even realize, getting some of that food assistance or that job. We work with Michigan Works a lot, who's amazing. We have had some homeless people that we've been working with. It's just home repairs. Our senior population, I feel, is a little bit underserved, and we've been seeing some of our seniors come in for a lot of home repairs. They're living off of Social Security. It's a single woman. She, doesn't know how to fix a faucet, and it's so much money to get a plumber in there and stuff like that. So we've been reaching out and connecting her with some different resources in Oakland County, and we're going to try to work on that a little bit more for our seniors, because we've had a lot of requests for that. Again, our challenges, have been, our staff in the past year, but we're working on that. And then just getting the word out on this program is there. We're doing through the social media, through our mailing. So anyone you guys talk to, please let them know that we are there and we're willing to help. I have a couple pictures there. And I did want to announce real quick that I have been with the coalition now for over 6 years, I think now, but with a heavy heart, I am leaving Novi. I am going to be continue running. For the past year, I've been running 2 coalitions, running the one in Waterford, and I just can't keep up with 2 full-time jobs. So I am going to go to Waterford, but I have Liz here. You want to stand up, Liz? Come up here. This is Liz Young. She is going to be taking my place as a new program director. Very qualified, coming from Huron Valley Coalition, so she's very familiar with it and the work, and she's already engaging herself into the community and the library, and I'll let her talk a little bit for moving forward, what she's looking at doing.
Thank you, Debbie. Yes, I feel like I want to clap for Debbie. Every chance I get for all the things that she's done. But I'm Liz. I'm a community health educator. I've worked with the Community Coalition previously in Huron Valley. That's White Lake, Milford, and Highland. I'm just really excited to work in this area. It's new to me. I live in Milford, grew up in Highland. I've lived in different states around the country, but Novi is still unique in its own, and I'm excited to learn and meet people. And I've already had a meeting with Julie and Lindsay, the teen media specialist, and we've already set up a program in the teen space once a month where I'm going to be doing some kind of an activity or project with them in the teen space. Next week, this month. Next month is next week. We're going to be decorating journals and talking about, the practice of writing in the journal and how can that be kind of stress relief and helping with all the things going on in the mind and that kind of thing. So every month I'll have something like that. It's always going to be hands-on project, like creative something, because there's a lot of evidence about creativity and art for helping with that busy mind. I use it myself, so I know it works. I'm just super excited for anything that Julie is going to let me do in the library. And I did a lot in the libraries over in the other communities, and I just find that it's just such a wonderful space and welcoming, and for all the patrons, and I'm excited to do whatever I can to help. So please come to me and tell me what the needs are, because we'll try to fill as much as we can. So thank you, and I'm excited to be working with you all.
We welcome you, Liz. We look forward to working with you. Debbie, we're sorry to see you go, but we understand and we've appreciated, all that you've done all the years. It's really been a success, and we're happy to partnership with you. I did have one question, or maybe to remind the people who may be watching or listening. The hours that you have at the library, regular hours or regular days, when are you at the library?
We are at the library on Thursdays. It has in the past been 10 to 3. moving forward, we're going to be there from 10 to 2 because of some scheduling conflicts with our community outreach coordinator. So every Thursday from 10 to 2, we are at the library upstairs in the historian room.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any questions or comments? Kathy?
Yeah, well, sorry to see you go, Debbie, but we feel like we're in good hands with Liz, so
Yes.
welcome, Liz. Having been the director of the senior center a long time ago, I'm really interested in the fact that you have been serving some senior citizens, and I'm wondering too if you coordinate or collaborate at all with Sandy Fisher from the city as far as resources go.
Yeah,
That's
we
something
do.
you
She's top on our list,
Oh, okay.
and we've actually done different journaling classes with her. We've done some drug safety, keeping your prescriptions safe with her. So definitely, we talk
good.
with them all the time.
Okay, and I was wondering too, if you get seniors that come in, experience, like going through grief or depression, if that kind of thing, if you get those people too.
We haven't had a lot of that, but it all kind of coincides when they come in and they start talking about, well, I'm here because I need help with, my home repairs or my electric bill. But once we start talking to them,
Then it
that
comes out.
comes out. They're very lonely. They want someone to talk to, and a lot of times we just spend 2 hours talking to them, and we've had a gentleman said to me once, like, thank you for listening. You're like the first person that's like, listen to me, It's really difficult, and I get it. I lost my mom last year, and I know how lonely that gets, and towards the end of life, what they're dealing with, and so we need to be very mindful of them and be there to support them and respect them.
And the other question I wanted to ask you, the cards that are in the bathroom, and I've seen them upstairs, I've seen them. So what numbers are on there for them to call? Is it your office, or is it calling a county number?
We had several numbers on there in English and in Spanish. We had a side of Spanish, but we did have like a human trafficking number. We had domestic violence number. We had a suicide prevention number. And then we did have a couple other numbers. You are changing it, right, and just kind of sticking with the human trafficking, suicide awareness, and domestic violence kind of numbers, because that's
So are you
generally-
able to track then how many calls that have come? You can't tell.
No, there's no way. But all I can do is track how many cards people are taking.
Yeah, I see.
And they're a very small card, so they can stick it in their pocket, to try to be, kind of
Discreet,
hidden.
yeah.
Discreet, yes. And we have gone through quite a few. I mean, over 100 cards we've gone through, which,
Wow.
yes, was just very, in the beginning it was, like 16 and 20, but then all of a sudden, I mean, I can't say for sure, like maybe someone took bunches at a time, but it's like
So you
every
said
time we go there.
there's two languages. You said Spanish, and what was the other language?
English.
English.
Well,
Okay, in English.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just wondering about some, one of the Asian dialects. I'm wondering
Yeah,
about.
we for sure can do that. If we have somebody who wants to translate,
Since we have
we
such
for
a-
sure can do it.
a
We do. We have
large number.
Yoko. She's translated a lot of our materials in the past in the Japanese thing, so we could definitely.
For sure, yeah, we
Yeah,
would for
it's a good
sure
idea.
translate into any language, yes.
Thank you. Well, we're
Absolutely.
so grateful that you're in our library, because Julie and I did a little trip over to Canada to, went on a tour of some of their libraries. And they had a resource worker up there full-time in the library, very, very busy all the time, serving. So it's a real plus for us to be able to have you at our library, because a lot of people look at Novi and say, you have higher income and better educated people, you probably don't have any problems, and that's not the case.
It's not the case. It's very eye-opening to see how many people are coming in and are struggling with all kinds of different areas. And we don't guarantee everything, but we do our best to get them connected. And we want to empower them. We just don't want to do it all for them. We want to empower them. But you get to that situation where sometimes you're just so overwhelmed that you don't know what those first steps are to do. So we really guide them. We set up goals with them. We check back with them, like, oh, how did it go? Did you talk with Kendra? We'll get on a 3-way call. Okay, we're going to call this person, and I'm going to introduce you to them, We go meet people at really odd locations, surprisingly, and we'll do whatever we can. We make copies. We we do all kinds of things, so.
Well, I know when people are overwhelmed, it's just they may not make that extra call.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're following up, because I think that it's difficult. For people that are overwhelmed, they just can't think about anything except their situation that they're going through. And because we have such a diverse community and a lot of people that are coming here from another country and they've left their families behind and everything, and so there's a lot of depression or anxiety over that and worried about their families in another country. And I've got to believe that maybe they don't feel comfortable coming to an agency, but if there's something that we could do to reach out to maybe some of the other diverse groups of people in our community, that would be a real plus, to let them know that there is an agency.
Right, and we want to make it open to and accessible to anybody, and you're right, and everything that's going on in our world, like, there's a lot of people that here from different countries, and it's causing all kinds of undue stress and worry and concern, and it's hard to, sometimes the culture, they don't want to talk about it, so that's why so
thanks
far
for all
the
you do.
library. Thank you.
And Liz, all you're going to do.
Thank you, I'm excited.
I'll be following up too.
Yes.
Yeah, I have. So I know a family, and they need help with their kid homework. Mom doesn't know English, but dad, he's traveling. He comes weekly once or twice. So they reach out to me. Sometimes I go to their house and help them. But is there any program where, of course, at school she's getting help, but is there any other way for them to get help?
Tell them to contact us. We will work with them. We'll call up some tutoring institutes and see what we can get for them. And then there are some different high schoolers that will, even stay after school to work with different students. But we definitely can work on that.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yep,
Thank you.
for sure.
I was just going to say, Debbie, thank you so much for all your work. And then Liz, of course, welcome.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to it. I had a question about, is there any specific criteria on who can leverage the service or not really? Anyone can contact from Novi?
Anyone can come. We originally started with anyone in Oakland County.
Okay.
We mainly do see people within Novi coming to the library, but I've actually had other people from outside the area contact us and heard about us, and we don't say no to anybody, so.
Okay, no, that's good to know. And then I was just going to say about the translation too, because I know people coming from India specifically, some might not, maybe not know English, as she said, and it'll be nice to see those cards translated. And if there is anything I can do to help, please, absolutely you can approach.
All right, so we'll
I'll
contact
definitely
you.
take you up on that offer.
Please.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have like the different languages. And
different-
they're small cards, so there'd be room.
Yes.
So.
I for sure will, yes.
Perfect, thanks.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Okay.
If I could just add one thing, Debbie, so wonderful to work with you.
Don't make me cry, Julie.
I'm not. I know where to find you, so we won't be apart. Liz, welcome. She has already jumped in both feet and has met with our team and is going to be making some great relationships with our teens. Years ago, you would have seen this as a trend with public libraries. Looking to bring someone in from the community or from a social work background to maybe provide this service. This has now become daily a habit and something that's becoming parts of public libraries now as an arm to what we're doing. So I want to thank you, Debbie, for having an open mind. When I brought this to her and we started talking, we knew that there was help in the community that needed to be met. And I want to thank the board for entertaining the opportunity to bring them in and give them a space in our building, because I do believe it is needed. There's a lot of help out there that I think people need. There's a lot of people out there that need the help. And if we can provide that as a connection through the library, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us, and it makes sense as a community hub. So I appreciate you entertaining that and putting our heads together and doing this, that it truly has been successful, and I think it can even be more as people know what they're doing and how they're connecting others. Help and wellness are two major parts of what that is, and I think our whole world is needing that, along with they do a lot of things too with kindness. So if we can keep those 3 words in mind, that is what we're trying to do with providing those services if we can. So again, thank you, board, but Debbie, thanks so much for that opportunity. And Liz, we can't wait to work with you.
Thank you for the stress pay.
Yes.
Those are my little trademark. That's Lulu. She's actually my pig.
Yes.
I have a pig that has a lot of anxiety herself. So she's become our little mascot. And when I do coping boxes for kids, it's they relate to animals a lot more than people. So it's farm theme or pig theme. There's a lot of pigs in it and stuff like that. But so I want everyone to have a stress ball because we have to take care of ourselves and we have to make sure that we are doing self-care ourselves so we can help others. And so that's think of Lulu when you're squeezing that stress ball.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you.
We're at the point in our meeting for public comment. In order to hear all citizens' comments at a reasonable hour, the library board requests that speakers respect the 3-minute time limit. This is not a question and answer session. However, it is an opportunity to voice your thoughts with the library board. Citizens must state their first, last name, and address. Anybody from the public want to make any comments? I see nobody running up to the podium, so I guess not. Next item on the agenda is the president's report. This is when I or any of the other trustees can relate any of their experiences at the library or involvement in the library. I'll open that up to other trustees if they have any comments to make or involvement. I bet Kathy Crawford has something to say.
I know you missed me at the last
We did miss you.
meeting.
We
that
did
I
miss you.
didn't. I wasn't here to share information with you. Well, I feel like I should bring information to you also about the Historical Commission, because I'm a commissioner on the Historical Commission, and we have a wonderful room, and we are collaborating with the library all the time. So I just wanted to share with you, we're building our audience back up with our programs now. In September, we had one put on by the Detroit Historical Society, and it was well attended. I mean, we had a full room for that. And it was The City Called Midnight, and it was about the Underground Railroad. And it was really, really interesting. And then last Thursday, we had a reenactor there to talk about the one-room schoolhouse. And I just would like to remind everybody, we have a display case in the library right by the elevators on the first floor. And we have volunteers that put information in there. And there was a lot of information in there about Novi's one-room schoolhouses and where they were located. And there were a lot of them, something like 10 or 12, I think, one-room schoolhouses in Novi at one point in time. And so we have had that information in there, and we had other items. So whenever there's a program coming up, like the Veterans Day program, there's always a display in that case. So I really love for you to take a look in there when you're at the library. Also, I participated in Senior Day, and so did many of the other commissioners. We sort of opened the history room on the second floor. It was a big success. This was the first time that Gail or the library has sponsored a Senior Day, and we saw many seniors that had not been to the library before. I don't know where they've been, but they came to the history room, and they were in awe of all of the activities, especially like the crafts that they could take out, and they were able to attend classes on technology. That's always wildly popular with the seniors. They like that. And they had lunch, and they had a little, like a continental breakfast, and they were out before the high school pretty much, got into the building or took up the roads. But anyway, it was a great, people say, oh, I hope you're going to do this again. So it was really, there were hundreds of people there. They were there for lunch. There was music, tour, and a lot of classes and things going on. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, an amazing thing happened at the Historical Commission that I really am enthused to share with you, because we had a gentleman who's new to Novi that came to our Historical Commission meeting and wanted to volunteer. And he's a faculty member at the Washtenaw Community College. And at the meeting, we were talking about the fact that we are going to replicate Novi 100 years ago, which would be 1923. We are going to replicate in miniature what the four corners, Novi Road and Grand River, look like. And Matt Moran's store was on one of the corners where Bates Hamburgers used to be. But anyway, we were talking about the building of the inside of Matt Moran's store and how we had a little description from people that were there. And so we were going to put in miniature the cloth and everything. So we would like to take that as a program to schools and everything else, an outreach program. And he said, well, it just so happens I'm starting my semester. I do 3D, like 3D, whatever you call it, right? And he said, I can do the whole outside of Matt Moran's store for you. He said, we sent him pictures, and last week, 3 of the commissioners and us, we went over to Washtenaw Community College and met with the class. They are so enthused, they are actually going to be building Matt Moran's store on a 3D printer, believe it or not, in 1/24th size. And then they're also going to help with the 1/12th of the inside. And it is going to be their semester project. Nice. So, you never know where things are going to come from, but that is pretty amazing. And it'll probably be ready for us to maybe in 3 or 4 weeks. So just wanted to share that because that was really a plus. Also, we had a request from Walton Woods. Some of the residents there were connected with the Detroit Historical Society, and they're new residents to Novi, and they wanted to know about the history of Novi. So they wanted to know if we would take them on a bus tour of Novi. So we said yes, we would see. They couldn't use their bus, something about insurance, so we would have to use ours. So we collaborated with the Novi Transit, Senior Transit, got a date set up, and last Friday we took some of the residents on a tour of some of the highlights of Novi, and they were so impressed. And then we brought them to the library also, gave them little tote bags and let them use the facilities and everything. And they were so excited to hear that the library also does some programming in some of the senior facilities. So I hesitated to mention it because I know that it's hard for staff to get to all of our senior high-rises, but I think you're going to be getting a call from somebody by the name of Stephanie that wants to do a book discussion group. So there's that. And then last, I have one more thing. Veterans Day is coming up, and it's Saturday, November 11th. And our historic cemetery on Novi Road and our historic cemetery on 9 Mile, we have approximately 45 veterans of wars from the American Revolution in the 1700s that are buried there in our little Victorian cemetery, to the War of 1812, to the Civil War, Vietnam and World War I, also veterans. So we have something like 45 veterans in our cemetery, which really we have found the city has renovated all of the headstones and everything. You'll notice that our old headstones are all cleaned and standing up straight and everything. But a project started about 5 years ago where we were going to put wreaths, just like they do at national cemeteries. The Historical Commission was going to provide or get money to get wreaths put on all of our veterans' headstones. And so we have done that, and we are having a ceremony because this is our 5th year, and it happens that it's going to be on Veterans Day. So we're inviting anybody that would like to come, if you would like to participate. The Boy Scouts, there'll be taps, and the Boy Scouts are going to, it's really impressive to see the young people, in uniform, go up to a headstone and salute, and they have something that they say at the headstone where they're placing the wreath. So it's a very moving kind of ceremony, and I think you would all enjoy it. So on Saturday the 11th of November, I'd love to see any of you there. So that's the end of my report.
What time is that?
I think the timing is at 1 o'clock, yeah. So it won't be too early. So hopefully it'll be nice and warm by 1 o'clock. Planning on it. But it's very, very moving. You would be surprised at how many other cemeteries don't have anyone from the War of 1812 or anyone that fought in the American Revolution, and we have people in that cemetery. That's where our history is. We may not have a downtown, but our Novi history is in that cemetery.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then to add to it, I know I was sharing with President Stirring today because he met with me from the iCube. There are going to be
Yes.
wreaths that are ornaments
Yeah.
that will be given at the event
Yeah.
that were made in the iCube on our machines.
Yes.
Yes. And then November 9th, which I believe November 9th, the city of Novi hosts a veterans lunch here at the Civic Center. I do believe it's already filled, but the iCube created coasters that the attendees at that particular veterans event will receive, and they were made in the iCube. So our iCube is becoming the
Yeah.
place to create things and give as gifts and connect people creatively.
Yeah.
And thanks to the Historical Commission, because they were leveraging the staff and the ideas to bring that to fruition, and then people are leaving with something that connects us back to the library. So thank you, Kathy, for that, and the Historical
Okay.
Commission.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Actually, yeah,
Go ahead, Trini.
just two things in my life that actually kind of, I think, do a nice job of really exemplifying what our library is in the city of Novi. I now have a high schooler, so we're a little bit over a month into the class. And so you realize that in their lives, right, the library is inseparable, right? That literally is kind of, their day flows right through there. Sadly, some of the days start right in the parking lot, but
Yeah.
I started to see how bad that is. And then, actually, my other daughter, there's going to be a music recital for one of the kids learning Indian classical music, Swara Vedika, is coming. And they've done that for a couple of years, but I just really think it's really great. It's exemplary, like really how much it's inserted itself into things that have, only ancillary touch. But we really are a community hub. It's a great location because everyone knows where it is, where to go. Right?
Yeah, just this past month, and this has happened to me more than once, but, at a business meeting, talking to somebody from out of the area, and somehow the topic of libraries come up, and you say, you're from the Novi, we've been there, we love it, it's great, it's fantastic, and they're not from this area, but it's like, when you talk to them, for some reason, they've heard about it, they've been there for some unique occasion, and they speak very highly of it. That's just nice running into people like that, very coincidental. As I think we all know, that October is Library Appreciation Month, and our governor had issued a proclamation. It's on page 19 of our booklet, but I know we can all read it, but I think it's well worth reading, so I want to read the proclamation from our governor, dated October 1, 2023. Whereas the Michigan Library Association, MLA, annually designates the month of October as a statewide observation to celebrate the contributions of Michigan public, school, academic, tribal, cooperative, and special libraries. Whereas Michigan libraries are essential institutions that serve as cornerstones of knowledge, learning, and community engagement. And whereas libraries play a vital role in fostering education, lifelong learning, and literacy for people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities. And whereas libraries provide a welcoming and inclusive environment that encourages exploration, programs, and technology. And whereas libraries play a significant role in promoting the right to read and the right to access information, enabling individuals to make informed decisions and engage in open discourse. And whereas libraries provide essential services to underserved communities, bridging the digital divide, offering critical support for job seekers, students, and individuals seeking to improve their lives. And whereas hundreds of libraries and millions of library supporters across Michigan are celebrating Michigan Library Appreciation Month this October, now therefore I, Gretchen Whitmore, Governor of Michigan, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Michigan Library Appreciation Month. During this time, I encourage residents to visit their library in person or virtually to connect to the services, resources, and collection their library provides.
Thank you so much, President Stirring.
Moving on to our next agenda item, which is the treasurer's report. Trustee Sherrick Curry, will you give the treasurer's report?
Sure. Well, Julie did what we asked her. She went and got the money. So, so as you know, the library, most of our money comes in right around now. Our top line is just $7,000 less than originally budgeted, and that seems to be because the penal fines went down. So apparently people are behaving better to the detriment of the library system. Yeah, otherwise it's kind of what we said. You know, we are, the thing at last meeting I mentioned, I encourage everyone, you know, the good side of us sort of correcting our compensation and our things like that is that it's helped our turnover and our overall things. The uncertainty is, if you look at, we're budgeting a pretty large deficit. We've done that every year, but traditionally unfilled positions and things like that make it disappear. This year we're going to have to keep monitoring that, I think, to see, because I think if indeed it reduces turnover, then it's not going to disappear. So, and those will be the challenges going forward.
Any questions for our treasurer? Hearing none. The director's report. It's up to you, Director Farkas.
Well, thank you. On page 31, I'm upping my game and providing you with photos. We're going to be celebrating, this is November and the anniversaries that will occur in the upcoming month. Betty Lang, she is one of our librarians, collection specialists, and also she's a liaison to Historical Commission. 35 years she will be celebrating with our library. And then we have Bill Bebenek from my facilities department. I say my. 23 years he'll be celebrating with us. And then we have, I'm coming on 16. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Jamie's 16. That's my magic number, the baby and this building. So, which is very exciting. November 12th is a wonderful day for me. Lisa Rinkle is from our support services department. She's in technical services specifically and will be celebrating 7 years. And Josefa Casas Velasquez is going to be celebrating 1 year, and she is our guest relations monitor. Josefa is doing a lot of work. She is really integrating herself into getting to know our teens. She's after school. She's making relationships. She's moving them to open seats, as you saw my letter and what I put out. You know, we are very busy after school. We are the place. They have found us. They want to be, you know, in our building and engaging with the library. And Josefa does an amazing job Monday through Friday working with those students and building relationships. I stood with her just as an example this week. I went down, the managers and I, we tried to, as much as possible, provide some backing and support to her when we can. And I went down this week and we stood together. You literally at 2:45, you do stand and face the doors and you get ready for the crowd to come. You know, it's like Moses and the parting of the seas. The doors open and the children come in, not children, teens, and they arrive, and they come in excited. They come in excited to use the building, knowing that, you know, they're going to hang out in teen space. They're going to go to the cafe. They're going to study. Josefa is a wonderful face, a smiling face, and a welcoming face that is starting to know the teenagers' names and saying hello and finding out how their sports are and how their test went. And these are amazing connections that she's making. And then to top that, she's working with Aiden Palmer, who's our new teen space monitor. And we've gone from 40 seats, board members, to 80 seats in the teen space. We now use the full room all the time. It started as just West. It's now the full room that we are guaranteeing space. And she works with Aiden, and you know, we want to make sure that we have an adult there, but they work together. And that's when you saw Liz. Liz is going to provide some programming once in a while. Not always do the teens want it, but when they do, we want to be able to give, you know, that opportunity to them. But this is a group that we want to continue to build relationships with, and we want them to feel that they are welcomed and they are important to us. So kudos, these 5 people, but as we, you know, celebrate anniversaries, but kudos to Josefa and what's going on. They are really, you know, this is new territory because we are popular. So sometimes it ebbs and flows, through the years, but this particular group of freshmen and sophomores, for the most part, are wanting to hang out and spend time in the library. And so we are working with them to see what we can do to best meet their needs.
Julie, could you make sure that you always put the pictures in?
Yes, I will. This is my new thing, I always
like
look
it,
for
yeah.
change,
I
and
really
yes.
like that. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes when I see the name, I can't put a face.
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely, and I'm sorry it took me that long for the light bulb to go off, but here I am putting the packet together, and it's a whole day to get everybody's reports and put them in, and I'm like, gosh, why haven't I done this in the past? So yes, I promise.
But tell Bill that we're glad to see his high school senior pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we all try to keep young here,
I will say too that on our little tour that we did with the seniors, one of the older gentlemen from Walton Woods said that was his first time coming to the library, but a friend of his had told him about the teens coming into the library, and he wanted to compliment Novi on having that connection. And I said, well, it's pretty close. I mean, the library and the high school are pretty close. But he said, that's amazing that they all come to the library. What a great thing. And so I thought, it is unusual, and I think we should be grateful
We
that they
should.
want to come and
We
that
should.
they feel welcome to come.
Yep, and I appreciate you saying that, because, again, they are just as important as anybody else coming through the doors, and I
Those of us who have some hell, they tell us how.
but I just want them to know I'm raising them, and they need to feel important and welcomed and know that they have a place. And you have supported them. My staff, I know, works very hard with them, and we are trying. I mean, I think sometimes teenagers get a bad rap. And if we can try to figure out, and point out the positive parts of it, they're going through lots of things. And, when you talk about, again, wellness and health and mental health, I think our teenagers are experiencing some of that. And to know that we've got points where they might need someone, and if we are making that difference or helping them, I do see my staff on a regular basis trying to make those connections and help when they can. So, thank you for that. The Friends, if you look on page, yes, I'm sorry, absolutely.
I mean, I'm glad the teens are coming in droves and you're
Yes.
building space. Are they displacing anything? Are you guys having to tell, what would have used up that space that you had to expand into for teen space? You were saying you had to open up the full,
We did it because we wanted to accommodate more.
no, fair
I mean,
enough.
yes.
It's something being displaced,
Oh, no. I mean, it would be a meeting room rental. But you know what? I find that our teenagers are more important than that particular side of the room being rented. I mean, we made that decision, and I think it's important, and I think it's relevant for what we're doing, that we give up that space at that time. So yes, it is meeting room rentals, but I think our kids are more important
no, fair enough.
than
I mean,
that.
and were there quite a few rentals being?
Yeah, there could be. I mean, we are a very busy and popular location to have rentals. So if it could be rented, it probably would be. But we're not,
Time frame.
2:45 to 5.
And see, that's not a popular time.
It depends. Businesses look for that for like afternoon programs or to meet with their teams and stuff. So, and there's organizations that will, but like I said, I think our teens are important enough.
No, fair enough.
Yep.
I'd just like to know what we're.
Absolutely.
Once they're gone, you can't tell you're missing them. Right now, in this transition period, you know what you're losing. So in our long-term planning, that's an important data point.
Right. Well, I can go back to Trustee Stirring when we had the conversation of that darn room being 200 people, and we had cost concerns when we were building the building, and we brought it down from 300 to 200. We could use that space being bigger, but I think we're doing a good job with, trying to manage it.
It was interesting at that time that we had a long discussion on whether that should be 200 or 300 seats.
Yeah.
And there was some cost considerations, but we went to other libraries in the area, and Southfield in particular, and they said, we don't need that much
Right.
space. And so in 2020 vision, it would have been nicer to have it larger, but the fact that it's so successful that it's full is a
Yes,
plus as
it
well.
is. And it is used on a daily basis, not only with us, but in the community in different capacities. So, yeah. So I will point out on page, and I'm sorry, I'm noticing these darn numbers at the bottom. I'll have to figure that out. That's a margin thing. Page 59, I believe it is. The Friends of the Novi Library will have another fundraiser at Vera Bradley this Saturday. So if you're around and you're starting to think about holiday gifts, please think about, stopping by. I'll be there from 12 to 2. They had a wonderful fundraiser Wednesday night, which was last night over at Applebee's. I haven't heard yet numbers, but I saw a lot of people come out and support them. So thank you for those that did. I know we had a couple board members that went, and I appreciate you for doing that, and I know Sue Johnson does as well. They really are working hard. Again, those dollars do end up going right back to the library, so thank you for supporting them. I'm happy to entertain any questions you have about any other parts of my report.
Any questions, Trustee?
Thank you.
If not, this is the point in our agenda where we give the public a second opportunity to make comments. The public has left. They must have known this was coming up, and so they left. So I won't read my prepared speech about how you have to conduct yourself at public comment. Committee reports. I will open this up. If you have anything you want to mention, if you're like a chair, want to mention anything in the committee that's not being discussed later on as a motion before the board. Trustee Crawford.
Okay, so in the HR committee, we've been trying to have a meeting. We've had a number of cancellations for whatever reason. I had COVID, I think was the last one, but I just want to mention we do have a wonderful new HR specialist. Our new hire is named Kristen Sullivan, so I hope you all get a chance to meet her sometime. She's so organized, and her office looks so different. I'm really excited about all that she's going to do for us. So she's very pleasant, and I know you'll enjoy meeting her. So thank goodness we now have an HR person, because that's going to free up some time for Julie once she's fully operational.
She has come in running
Yeah.
into her position, which is amazing. Great experience she comes with, and I will be happy to bring her to a meeting and introduce you all to her. I've been keeping her close to me, I hope you don't mind, just because she's been doing a lot. We've been training and she's learning things, but I will be happy to bring her and introduce you. So thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Any other committees want to mention what's going on in their committee if it's not coming up later on as a motion or action? If not, we will move on. We have no closed session tonight, so it's matters for the library board action. The first item is item A. It's a new policy. It's a programming policy. It's pages 62 to 64. Because it's a new policy, there's no red in it, it's all new. I think this was taken from someplace else that we found a very nice model from. But anyway, that's the program policy that is here for the first read. But I would, I'm not entertaining a motion to approve. But I will listen to any discussion, comments that any of the trustees may have in regard to the programming policy on page 62 to 64.
And I know some of you might need some time to review it, not a problem. If you would like to send me questions or thoughts about it in the next week, I welcome that. Our meeting is November 16th, so we are moving up a whole week. I would need any of your comments or questions by the 9th of November. Yes.
Just one minor textual thing. Is the word programming, I know within libraries it means one thing, elsewhere it means dozen different things.
That's a great question. I appreciate that.
Perhaps a definition might
Yes,
be.
so programming is active programming that we're doing. It's presenting speakers, events that you would come to the library for. It is not computer programming, so I appreciate you asking that. It is us actively providing opportunities for people to come to the building and engage with us. Yes, thank you.
And I will make the comment in case people misread something, just like I did initially, where it talks about the guidelines for selling books. Initially, when I read that, I thought we automatically would get 10% of any of the sale proceeds. That's a starting point. There may be a lot of reasons we may waive that, so we don't automatically always get 10% of the sales proceeds.
Right, but we do put it in because if it's someone that maybe is doing something at no cost, you know, that might be a way, or if they're selling a book or something, we're looking for them to maybe, as our way of fundraising, give back to the library. And we've had opportunities where that's occurred in the past, yes.
Generally, I think it's a good
Yeah.
policy. Any other?
So could
Go ahead,
so
go
this is gonna come back next
This will
month
come
for a
back.
vote?
Yes, I'll
Right?
bring it back
Okay.
next month in November
Okay.
for you, yes. Because this is totally a brand-new one. I feel like you all need, you know, you've not had the experience of seeing this in the past. I think you need some time.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on then to item B for matters for library board action. This is a revision to the collection development policy. This is the second draft. Trustee Chair Curry had some comments. They were looked at by the committees. They were looked at by the attorney. Some of your comments were included, some were not, but the revisions are now in pages 67 to 74. And I would entertain someone making a motion to adopt this, and then we can discuss it.
So move. Move to adopt.
Second? Anybody? Been moved and seconded for adoption. I'm gonna open it up for discussion. Any of the trustees have anything you want to discuss on the new collection development policy? This is the second draft. The changes from the previous draft are in red.
And with yellow.
Red,
and with
red,
blue,
red
yes.
and yellow.
I hope that's easy to see.
Yeah.
'Cause I know we're trying
Yeah.
to, we're trying to track for you, just so you have context.
If I may.
Trustee Crawford,
I
you may.
just want to say, since Chairman Dooley isn't here, we did bring this forward, and also Trustee Chiricuri's comments. We discussed this at length at the DEI committee. You know, we just went over the whole thing. I want you to know that it was discussed fully. Everything was really discussed, and as a group, we made a decision to approve some of the, well, actually all of the red markings that are in here now. Certainly, I want to say too that I appreciate it when somebody brings forward, I know that you put a lot of thought into your comments and a lot of thought into the things that you wanted us to look at. And we did take a hard look at it. And this isn't the first time that you're seeing a lot of these things, and I know the policy committee did the same thing. So, you know, we didn't do it quick. I mean, it wasn't something quick. So we went over every single point that you made, and I know that the staff also had a meeting about it. So, anyway, I just wanted to let you know that since Trustee Dooley is not here, I want to let you know that we didn't just, we went over everything and discussed it fully. It was a long meeting, so.
I would like to add, we have talked before about the stickers, and the language that's in there now is that signage and stickers are provided only as directional aid to facilitate access by making it easier for guests to locate materials, and are not an endorsement of the material by the library. Materials are accessible to all guests who may choose to consult or ignore the direction aids at their own discretion. And we've reviewed this extensively, and we've reviewed the issue from both a legal standpoint and an operational perspective. And in our opinion, the sticker is not directing the public to books with Christian themes, but is merely making those books more easily identifiable for those who look for them. The library did not initiate this process, but used the stickers in response to requests from the public. This is a similar process with use of other types of topics, So we are applying the same policies as we're using for other stickers to all types of subjects and not singling out religious or other topics.
Yeah, okay. I want to say too that I did notice that even when if I go to Sam's Club, there are stickers on books there too, also telling people, what is the genre, Christian genre, and music. If you look, when I look at my Apple list, everything is listed. If there's a Christian music, it's listed. It's not separated out for different religions or anything, but it does help you when you're looking for a certain type of music or a certain type of book. So we discussed that quite a bit. And also I know that the legal opinion certainly came into play, telling us that we were okay legally with the way that we are operating.
Okay.
And so,
Trustee Sherricker.
as you know, I gave you a fairly extensive list of comments and questions on this thing, and I appreciate what's been incorporated. Some of what I presented was actually questions or more things for discussion. And, as I mentioned with you, Julie, I don't intend to take everything up at this meeting, but I think that collections policy is the library issue of our time. Right now, you're seeing, today, there's a big blow up in the governor of Iowa went after the people in the press today who were questioning her rather rudely about library policies there. This is, it's something that there's a lot of passion about it. And so in different areas, fundamentally, if you looked at all my comments, it came back to one thing. We obviously want to have a right to read, a place for people to discover things and everything else. There's also this fundamental belief, and if it's mistaken, we need to make sure we are educating people. There's a belief that this is a safe and comfortable space for children to explore. So while it's nice to say, parents got to be in charge of everything the kid looks at and everything else, are we helping those parents? Or if we're not helping those parents, are we making this a less desirable place to have your kids come in the first place? And so it all comes down to that, right? And the challenges are different, right? As I said in the thing, depictions of sexuality they're in the Bible, they're in the Mahabharata, they've been in every, the Iliad, the Odyssey, it's been there all along. As we increase the graphic content, graphic novels, and all those things, and this is something every society has, imagery versus text has always been a big thing, and what those things are. So I guess the first comment I was going to ask was kind of a question, and I didn't necessarily, no changes reflected, but the question's still there. So in the labeling and everything else, I appreciate we've decided it's not guide, it's just a guide. Are we foreclosing, and we don't do it currently, but are we foreclosing the possibility that we might put labels to advise parents about things like sexual content, graphic violence, explicit language?
We are not looking to do that.
Are we foreclosing the possibility that we could do that with this policy?
I haven't had that conversation come up specifically to do that.
Not to do it. Are we foreclosing the possibility? As we've written it here, are we foreclosing that possibility? So, for example, we have in our DVD section, we have little stickers that say things like rated R, and underneath that it says what that is. And that's not from us. That's from the.
That's not from us. I want to make sure that goes on record.
I understand it's not from us, but the parents view that as an aid, right? It's very nice to know what's rated R and what that rated R is, or what's PG-13, what's in the PG-13. That's something that's generally popular across the country. So the question: in this policy, are we saying that at no point could we do that?
Well, I guess I can respond to that. The policy itself doesn't say that we're going to do that. But like any policy that's out there, it's subject to future changes by future boards. So it doesn't foreclose almost anything going on in the future. But it doesn't, the policy doesn't say we're going to do it. It doesn't say we're never going to do it. And even if it said we're never going to do it, the future boards can always change their mind and come up with a new policy. So I would say it definitely doesn't foreclose that possibility.
So, okay, sorry, Mark, Chairman, just to clarify. Of course, we can change any policy we want in the future, but this is the policy we're putting in place right now. So I guess I want to understand, could we, if it was something that was popularly requested or generally, are we allowed to put content advisory stickers and things like that?
I would be looking for guidance for that conversation to occur with the board at that time.
So what's written here, so my question is, what we're about to approve here, does that foreclose the possibility of content advisory stickers?
No.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that. So if I want to make a modification to what's being proposed here for consideration by the board, is that a good time to do it? Should I do it now or do them separately?
You can propose an amendment
Okay, that's what I mean,
at any time.
Okay, so they're kind of discrete ones, but, so one concern I have generally in this whole thing is, as we professionalize our policy, are we creating barriers from the community? Or in the sense the community has less control over their library because there's either a bureaucratic or a legalistic or a different ways of throwing up the barriers to it, right? And so that's always one of my concerns. So for example, we did something earlier this year on our policy for challenging materials, right? Where we kind of restricted that to Novi residents. Now that makes sense. This is the Novi Community Library. That's who really should have a right to comment on what's in our library beyond the professionals we hire. And I think the same thing in the written request for consideration of materials. I believe we're in a time of decreasing budget. We're going to be in a time of, resources are always going to be stressed. So where it says a written request for consideration, I would just like to add from a Novi resident. And I add that also because it's not uncommon, it's pretty easy to find on the internet in like 10 minutes. There are a lot of publishers who really try to promote books or promote certain, by creating these little campaigns and stuff like that, write every library, write this, that, and the other thing. So I just believe that the amendment I would propose a written request for consideration from a Novi resident.
This is on.
And which page and where
Oh, I'm
are you,
sorry.
yeah, just so we.
This is
yep.
on the second
17.
page,
Yep.
page 70, right after the red comment, a written request for consideration from a Novi resident.
Right.
You're proposing to add from a Novi resident. Okay. Are you proposing more changes? We do it all at once, or?
I think let's take them discreetly because they are different issues, and I think that they're.
Okay. So there has been a motion to amend the policy to add from a Novi resident after the words a written request for consideration on page 70. Is there a second for that amendment?
I think you have to ask the motion maker if they're open to a friendly amendment, and then you have to ask the seconder the same question.
Yeah.
No,
No, it's-
the motion maker right now is Kathy.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's, okay, you can do it that way too. This is,
Yeah.
this is a proposed
This
friendly
amendment.
amendment.
Right.
And the question is, are you willing to just accept that as a friendly amendment without having to go through the process of actually amending the policy?
Well, can we discuss it first?
Sure.
I mean, I guess I want to know why.
Yeah, again, my fundamental concern is, okay, so what we do with the challenge policy, we put a wall around it, right? So and I think it was an intelligent thing to do. We know that there's a community effort to do certain things, or there's movements in various parts of the country to do things, and so earlier in the year, we corrected our challenge policy to restrict that to Novi residents. So if the process for taking things or either moving them or reclassifying them or removing from the library is restricted to our folks, I also think the written request for consideration, again, these are taxpayer dollars we're spending here. So those really should be driven by our folks here. You're gonna have you're gonna have that challenge right now, just, you got 40 languages spoken in this town. By the time you've satisfied 40 different, you've seen signature drives. I can get a gazillion people saying this language ABC needs to have a 50-book collection here, right? I mean, it's, so we really have to.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And are we taking, I think we should take these amendments separately, right? Instead of lumping them all together.
Well, we can do it either way, but
I
I guess
prefer
I go
separate.
one at a time.
I would recommend taking them separately
Okay,
as well.
because one of the things I wanted to comment on the fact that the DEI, we talked about, you were mentioning about, rating our, putting some kind of message on books. And we, as parents, after we discussed that at great length, and after some of the librarians also, even in other libraries, don't do that. And the reason why is because in many cases, that's the first book a kid will want, is the ones that are rated R or that have graphic illustration. I mean, it's just the way it is. If you single them out and you say this has graphic illustrations, that'll be a popular book for some people that will want to take it out. So,
I think that's
I mean, that's, it,
Yeah, but that's not germane to this particular amendment, but,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I wanted to bring
Yes.
up the reason, we did discuss that. And then we thought, as parents too, we know our kids, that would be, maybe not your kid, but.
no, I mean, it's, no, forbidden fruit is forbidden fruit, but you still.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Once you
mean,
identify that sometimes, that can be, and
I mean,
that's,
cigarette labeling made it, the more warnings you put, the more I want to try it back in the day.
What I wanna do is, I wanna limit
Okay.
the
Yeah.
discussion
Yes.
right now to the words "from a Novi resident."
Yep.
If the maker of the motion will consider that a friendly amendment.
I will consider it.
Will the seconder of the motion
Yes.
consider it a friendly amendment? Okay. At that point, I guess we can open this up for discussion on this point of, from a Novi resident. Did you have something saying that, Brian?
Yes, as I read this is for selection of books. We are part of a very large metropolitan area. Let me take one example. Recently, well, in the last year, I read a rather inspirational book that was Jalen Rose's autobiography. Jalen Rose is not a Novi resident. Jalen Rose has put a lot of money into the local area. He runs his own high school. He basically has his own charter high school. And I volunteered at that charter high school. And I found his book inspirational. I bought 3 copies and gave them to Julie to submit wherever. But now I made that request. But say Jalen Rose, who is a respected leader in the metro area, asks local libraries to send out his books. I don't think we should automatically say his written request is out the door. Because I mean, there is a possibility that, in this metro area that we can have folks that write articles about the greater Detroit area that affects us all, that could be considered, so.
And I agree with that, and in my mind, his request would still be entertained. It would most likely be accepted under 3 bullets down. Supports business, cultural, recreational, civic interests of the community. So this is not exclusive, this is not the only criteria for getting books.
Yeah, but it would be difficult then, because automatically that question would be, are you a resident? And they're making the
I
request.
think an author promoting their book is a little different than
Well,
somebody saying.
I think I'm just saying, I think that is limiting.
Well, no, but I mean, I disagree, because the vast majority of the books you buy every year are not falling into that third line. They're bought under other criteria.
But we have lots of people that use our library,
But they don't pay for it.
neighboring, and they might see something that they think we should own. And if they're coming from another community, they're making that recommendation, that's an opportunity for a recommendation for the library to own it. You wouldn't have that experience from that depth or breadth outside, who might feel that our library benefits from that book. It hasn't been made available yet because someone from Novi didn't realize it and want to buy it.
Yeah, so
I mean-
I guess we're not foreclosing that possibility, but the point is we have 9 other criteria here. I didn't cover them. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 9 other criteria under which your staff selects books and adds them to our collection. So
But then we're shutting down those if someone comes in.
it would have to come in. It would have to meet one of those other criteria, and your staff would have to say that, yeah, that's a good idea. It doesn't mean they can't suggest. Now, there might be a book that you guys think is totally idiotic, okay? But let's say Srini comes to every single meeting and he wants the history of paper airplanes. You know what? And Srini is a friend of the Lowland Library. Srini does a lot of good things for the library. Okay, what the heck? Let's take a flyer on the history of paper airplanes. And, that's a situation that exists, right? I know that there's books. I can tell you one author. It's 100% it's 100% AstroTurf. They write every single library. They say, oh, you need to have more books from this author, from this particular group. Okay, the books are very mundane and have no popular support.
That's your opinion.
No, Vera Merchandani, you can look up the number of libraries that stock your stuff versus the number of private sales.
I'm not talking about one specific, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
certainly don't want to be
So
pigeonholed.
I just chose that one, but I'm just saying, we know if you go on Reddit, you go on any site, within 5 minutes you'll find campaigns to do these things. I'm saying we're entering a time where we're going to have precious resources. The priority should be given to Novi residents. And especially to the extent that we also have people Suppose Jalen Rose objects to a book that was really insulting and demeaning of kids who played inner city basketball. He doesn't have a right to challenge that book in the Novi Library. You took that away from him.
So I have a question so the past 12 months, how many written requests do we have from people outside Novi? Do we have?
We don't track it that way.
What I guess, and I'll just be honest, what prompted this is if we're going to cut off challenges from outside the community, it also makes sense to extend the privilege to within the community.
And if I could respond to that, I think the analogy that this has to be the same language as a challenge is incorrect. And the reason it's incorrect because this is just criteria that can be looked at. It doesn't mandate the library director or the staff do anything. The library staff. However, a request for a challenge, if made properly, mandates a response. This doesn't mandate a response. If it's just a request, it's one of the 9 criteria. That's not the only criteria. It can be listened to, it can be ignored. So I'm kind of don't know why we would limit a request to consideration just to Novi residents. It could come from any place. It could be ignored if it came from a Novi resident. It could be ignored if it came from Russia. Because it's just criteria. And that is a different situation than a request for a band. Because if it's a request for a band, we have to respond. And therefore, I think the analogy, although the language is similar, is not an appropriate analogy.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, if you want to, I'm not going to support the motion with the amendment.
Okay, so
I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to support it.
it's no longer a friendly amendment. We don't have support, we don't have support from the maker of the motion or the seconder of the motion. Now, you may still make the motion, it just wouldn't, which was kind of the way I started with this. You can still make the motion if you want, and we can all vote on it. It doesn't have to be a friendly amendment.
Yeah, no, we had the discussion. That's my important point here.
Okay.
My point is to make sure that whatever we're doing here, that we're not erecting walls that block off citizenship from their library. Because we need to be very cognizant, and as we know, there's libraries in Michigan, communities in Michigan that have decided they don't need libraries. We need to be very cognizant that libraries are a foundational thing of Michigan cities. Okay, libraries, those single schools. I actually maintained one of the oldest one-room schoolhouses in Oakland County. These were popularly created things. It's one of the beautiful things of American democracy. De Tocqueville even writes about some of the Michigan libraries. If you go back to that book, it's fantastic, right? So, everything's getting politicized in the modern era, even in the library, which is stunning to me. But I just want to make sure that we're protecting the citizens' right to their library. So I'll withdraw that since I don't think there's support for it.
Oh, okay.
I did have some more questions.
Okay.
But I don't want to be hogging. Anyone else have comments?
Why don't you, while you got the floor right now, why don't you go with it?
Okay. So the following page there, which I think is 71, I apologize, the numbers are falling off my copy.
Next page will be 71, yes.
Yeah. So we said, as well as materials for which proper catalog criteria cannot be established, i.e. mark record violations. What does this mean and when does this happen?
It's validation, not violation.
Yeah, validation, right. So
Right. So I gave you some information if you look in the DEI portion, because that's where it was looked at. Hold on one second. So it's in the green section, middle of the page, on page 79, I believe it is. I hope that's, yes, page 79. Mark record validation for cataloging includes but is not limited to an ISBN, title, Romanized title, author, and subject.
So has this been an issue in the past?
This has, which is why we put some language in.
So I just want to understand. So
Yes.
What's the example of the issue, I guess?
So we want to make sure that we have a way to catalog these specifically. We need ways to do that. By marking and making a note of mark record validation, we're using that in order to catalog it in a proper way and a useful way.
So that's what I'm saying. So have we had items you weren't able to catalog?
We've struggled with some, absolutely. And a lot of international materials sometimes are difficult. So we want to be able to make sure that if we are going to accept a book, there's some process and way for us in order to catalog it.
Yeah, because I did look up at them, because the Mark record does have a series of fields which are
They do.
available to the local library.
Yes,
So
and
I want to
we,
make sure we're not foreclosing either self-published books,
Nope.
foreign books.
no, most are now, I mean, they're coming with an ISBN or something, and so we're identifying that just to make sure that there is some way for us to catalog it. We've got to have something to work with.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, so in the past, when you had the struggle, what do we do?
Well, I mean, if we end up not having anything, the book might not go in the collection, because we've got to have some, and we have special cataloging. We work with TLN in order to help us. If we don't have that in the building to do it, we will send it away. But again, we're just trying to make sure that there's something there that will help us catalog the material.
Right, but if there's not, that doesn't mean it's necessarily not a worthwhile thing to have in our
It
library.
doesn't, but I mean, the staff will work as hard as they can to find it, but if there's no way to put it in the catalog,
Well, but you can create that, right? Mark allows you to create it using the.
it depends on it. We don't run into it very often, but we certainly don't want, we've got to have something to work from. We have to have something that we can put it into in order to categorize it.
I'll revisit this at a later date, but I believe my cursory research of Mark is it does enable
Yes.
and facilitate libraries the ability to add things.
It
to the
will, but
library.
we don't always have the opportunity to do that on the fly or make that available. So we're working with the system that we have. Sometimes there are materials that we don't or can't get them into the catalog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to say that,
Because you also have to you have to have a way to search it. So, yeah, I can stick it in the catalog, but if there's then not a good way for me to provide subject areas or something to tie the book, it'll never be found. We want to be able to make sure it can also be found in the catalog as well.
no, I agree. I just want to make sure we're not creating a barrier again.
No,
Again, increasingly
we're
books are
not.
being self-published, so
Yeah.
self-published books will struggle with the Mark catalog, right?
Actually, they're getting easier and easier because they're looking for, self-publishing is almost easier, that ISBN number is getting associated with it very quickly. This has changed in publishing in the last few years, which is great for the self-publishing industry.
Okay,
Yes.
so that part's improving.
It is,
Our international
absolutely.
collection's the other area
Yeah.
we're very
I
concerned
honestly have not had too much, but we want to make sure that there's some criteria there that doesn't allow something that we have no way to identify to put it in.
The
So
concern is-
that's the concern from our staff, our cataloging staff that we've run into.
What I might say, just from a grammatical standpoint, that sentence doesn't say it will be rejected.
Right.
It just says it has the right to decline it.
Right.
So I mean, even if there's this cataloging
Yes.
issue, which makes it easy and
Yes, we will
appropriate,
look.
it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's automatically declined.
Right.
They just have the right to decline.
Right. Or it could take some time.
Yeah.
I appreciate people who make donations and they're like, well, where is it? It's been 2 days. It could take months to actually get it categorized and cataloged appropriately. So we want to make sure that those expectations, are understood by someone who might be making that donation as
And my
well.
goal is always to keep our bylaws and policies
Yep.
thin and easy to read.
Sure.
So we could write a clause for every single eventuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
The preference is if we're able to manage this through managerial discretion right now and provide a good service, I'm not seeing what value it adds, to be honest.
Well, the staff was looking for it so that they had something if there was a problem and they couldn't get a solution to putting it in the actual collection. So I rely on my professionals to give me that language to use. That's, it's not a barrier. It's that we've run into that situation, so therefore we want to make sure there's something
And I
there.
don't object to the first part with the selection criteria. It's just this latter thing, proper cataloging criteria. I mean, the reality is, Mark was designed to be an open system. It's designed to constantly have things added to it. I would rather we develop the skill set to do that as an ad-using basis than to ever use that as an excuse not to take something that's worthwhile. So it's really the second half of that. The cataloging can be established I'm not aware of anything that can't be cataloged with the Mark system.
We have run into some very odd, but we have run into some situations.
I'd like to see what that is. I know, I can.
Srini,
I'm-
it hasn't happened in yesterday or a year
That's
from
what I'm
now.
saying. So why, if it's not an issue, why put it in is my point.
Because they have run into it, and that's the thing.
They've run into a situation where they couldn't create a Mark record or something.
Yes, they had something were not able to catalog. Yes.
We're not able to find an existing MARC record, or we're not able to create a MARC record for it?
I'm sorry, I can't give you that. I can go back and get you all of those details. I didn't know I would be asked that
No,
question,
fair
but
enough,
I
and
can go
I'm not
back.
expecting, I'm letting you know my concerns on these things, right? Hierarchy
We're
of
not looking
catalogs.
to make barriers to those who want materials in our collection. I can tell you that.
What I guess my thought on these policies are designed to help protect the library and to protect the staff, which we as trustees, I believe, are trying to support. So if staff sometimes encounters a issue and resident or say, well, how come didn't you do that?
Right.
As opposed to librarian A saying, well, I just thought it was a good idea, or I thought it was a bad idea. There's a policy that gives them the right to do that. And that's why I guess I support not a mandatory
Right.
denial
Right.
of accepting the material, but the right to deny the material if it can't be easily, and it's sometimes not even easy, and that's not the right word. If it sometimes just can't be maneuvered within that system, and we just have the right to deny it, and I would like to, as a trustee, support, the library and support the staff by having something in the policy that doesn't put the librarian at risk for just kind of unilaterally making a decision. So I kind of support that sentence.
Well, I've raised my objection to it. I just, again, want you to know that that's the concern there. And I do recommend that because we have such a diverse community and you're going to have access to a crazy number of amazing resources, that we develop these skills at creating MARC records. It's, you could just see, for example, a large historical collection could be donated, and that would be entirely devoid of MARC records, right? Potentially, depending on the books, but you would want them, right? Continuing on my next area of concern, and it's on the display of materials. And we've written this, see, this is where I struggle, and I invite the trustees' attention to it, is children are a particularly important part of our customer base, and childhood goes till age 18 in America. And I think there is an expectation amongst our people that we're cognizant of that. That kids are a special group that deserve certain protections and things like that. So, when I go to display materials, I was almost looking at, should we go back to the FCC criteria? Should we try not to have things that are obscene, indecent, or profane there? In the things targeting kids. And we do have things that are targeted towards kids, that are children-oriented in our displays. A display, as I said before, a book on a shelf is a book on a shelf. I got no problem with it. It's sitting there waiting for someone to find it. A display is something we're putting out there, editorial content, whatever you want to call it, entertainment value, whatever. Is there not some reasonable expectation? And the FCC has it pretty well defined, but yeah, we've seen, there are books that if you read, you have to take them off, you have to take the library meeting off cable TV, right?
So then what would be your response to page 79 with the information I provided? Did you have a chance to read that?
You know what, I do apologize, I did not see 79.
So we provided you some information about the Miller test, and I also provided you an overall process for creating a display of library materials at NPL.
So I just want to be clear, that statement wrote, it is critical no librarians do not have obscene materials.
Where are you at? I'm sorry.
I think that's page 79. The Miller test.
So this is coming from the Michigan Library Association.
Right, so the Michigan Library Section also has a law, which I provided to you, that is specifically placed, and that is, it talks about how library employees, board members, and everything else are exempt from laws related to the distribution of this obscene materials. So it can't be possible that, we know there's materials that fail the FCC tests.
FCC is so different from publishing, so I want to go on record for that.
Publishing, because the First Amendment is wide open. This is, and I'm not talking about books
but it's display of books.
Agreed. By the action of displaying it, we are putting it front and center in front of people. So, the history of Penthouse Magazine may be something of great importance to a great number of people. I don't think it's something that should be put in front of the teen section. So I think that statement from the MLA is incorrect. So we do have things that are obscene by other definitions. I mean, that's factual. And if we believe as library professionals that that's okay, then what I'm saying is we need to have what are we giving the parents? If we want to say, hey, when you sign up, bring your kid to the library, here's something parents should know. Your kid may see this type of stuff. As a library, that's what we do. And remember, many people come to Novi, this is their first library in the country. I happen to have grown up here, but for many people, they're coming from an outside, they don't know. So, if you guys decide, my point is, if we decide we're going to have all this stuff there, pictures of people having sex, lewd language, graphic stuff, all that graphic violence, explicit stuff, in sections that children, teenagers can easily access, and if our expectation on the next page is that parents must be actively involved with everything their kid goes and browses, then I think we should have some method of informing them of what they may see there, because they may have preconceptions that are not correct.
A couple things to respond to. The comparison to the FCC is just not a logical comparison. In part because of what goes on, in a broadcast is a snapshot, a momentary picture, a momentary word, as opposed to a book that may use some terms or some pictures that some people or parents might find objectionable, but other parents find very acceptable and, quite frankly, desirable to help explain certain things to their children. So the fact that it's an entire book and there's a word in this book that you may not use that word on a public broadcast certainly wouldn't be a reason to not have that book in a particular sentence. So I don't think the comparison to FCC is kind of an appropriate comparison. I think the fact that there are...
I agree with you, that's not appropriate. It's brought up for... Sorry.
But I think it sounded like the suggestion was we should use the FCC standard.
No,
and I don't think that's an appropriate standard to use. Now the other thing is, and I think this is, parents do have to make decisions in terms of what they want their children to see or be, because the librarians can't be that monitor for certain parents that want this exhibited and other parents that don't want this exhibited. That task can't be done to the librarians, although they are just given the discretion of what they're going to display, and they're going to use that discretion. But I think that's where it's got to be. I don't think a certain group of parents should dictate how the displays are made, because some people might be more conservative, some people might be more liberal, and that's not fair to say that, I'm extremely liberal, so it has to be all of this stuff, or I'm extremely conservative, and it can't be none of that. I think the fact that there are these two different viewpoints is indicative of what the library is all about, and it provides both views. We can't say we only want to present this view, or this display, or not this display. It's not what libraries are.
And if I could respond, I brought up the FCC criteria because that is a widely appreciated, rarely challenged criteria. It's something society as a whole has said is reasonable. And the FCC criteria apply to, in the case of the FCC, during the hours where children are expected to be watching TV. I'm simply saying, and I'm not saying anything about a book on a shelf. We can have every single viewpoint represented, and I hope our librarians, if somebody says I want to find something that's about this, about that, pro this, anti that, whatever, they can find it for you, and they'll help you guide it. I am simply saying on the displays, where we are putting things front and center, I think there needs to be some discretion. There has to be some this has to be a library for everyone. And I'm gonna just say, all this talk about diversity that's like consumed this country for my entire life, it doesn't mean a damn thing if you don't allow people to raise children the way they want. Okay? And if you don't have respect that they might have values. So when you put some of that stuff front and center in the displays, okay, like I said, the history of Penthouse, I can get 50 high school kids tomorrow. Mainly boys will say they want to see that. Okay? And we can have all that stuff there. I'm saying in the displays, there needs to be some sense of, or if there isn't, I'm giving the counter-side. Let's have a thing, warning to parents. Okay, libraries are places where kids will encounter controversial things. Your kids might see things, and therefore you should be involved.
I would like to say, I don't want anybody that might be listening or watching to think that there isn't already discretion taking place when books are put on display. I agree, and I even said in the diversity committee that I agree when books are put in display, there is some bit of a sense of endorsement in a way. I mean, there is.
Yes.
But the librarians aren't going to be able to read every single book in the library to know every single thing that might be objectionable to someone. What I think of as obscene as an 82-year-old is going to be very different than what somebody that's 25 or 30 might think. So obscenity, and you mentioned, obscenity in the library, where we don't feel that we have obscenity in the library. So it's a viewpoint that you have about obscenity that may be different from what I view. And we have to go with some definition. So we're choosing to go with the libraries in general. The regional libraries and all libraries have come up with a definition of what is obscene. And I think that that's what we have to go with. We can't go with, because everybody, believe me, everybody has a different opinion about it. And it's just like, I'm horrified sometimes when I see things on Netflix or something else that are there all day long. The kids can look at it or whatever. So you're going to always find a problem. But there is a sense, and I agree, when things are on display, but the goal, and the librarians, it's a challenge for them. It's a challenge for them to choose what to put on display. But they try to follow the guidelines of, okay, what are national dates, what are things coming up, like maybe it's about Christmas, or maybe just whatever date is coming up on the national calendar that people are going to be looking for materials, and they choose books where there's a number of points of view. It's not just one point of view, where you have all sides there. So you might object to it, but there's somebody that thinks it has value. So, and they're not there forever. They're only there for a period of time, for a short period of time. So I don't feel that we have a problem. I really don't.
I just wanted to add, I know we are talking about the displays, but even before that, the staff uses their selection criteria to go and buy those books. So they're not going to go and buy things that are going, again, everybody has their own perspective, but we do, even publishers selling things in the library or staff picking the right books, I don't think we have a problem too,
I'm happy to do show and tell at the next meeting of things in our library.
From your point of view.
Well, I'll show you pictures. It'll be your point of view as soon as you see the pictures. And all I'm saying is, look, if it's a free-for-all and parents have no right to expect anything, then let's just state that. It fundamentally, I'll be honest, I've been doing some research. I've contacted 4 different publishers to ask for their criteria on how they decide the age appropriateness of things. And it's rather interesting that none of them seem to have a written thing to let you have it. In fact, I haven't gotten callbacks from the people who are supposed to get back to me. So I'm going to continue working that. But if we're giving 100% of our discretion towards the publishers, which it appears we do from the conversations I've had,
But we have policies and guidelines in place.
and
So
I
we're
won't say
better
we-
than the
I won't
publishers.
disagree with you. Kathy, you're saying we have a definition of obscenity in the library. No, the Miller test is saying obscenity doesn't exist from that thing that's been shared. We do have definitions of obscenity that the federal government has and that have been in place for many years. Okay, so, and again, this is just simply, I mean, I'm just bringing it to alert. This is not the only guy in the only library in America talking that this stuff is happening. There are things that, again, if I come and read, they'll make you blush. If I show you the pictures, you'll be, why is that in my kid's library, that photograph? And I have to say, one of the books, I went back and got all 4 editions through Melcat. And you can see that there is a certain coarsening or a certain change in what the standards of what's allowable for children to see in a sex ed book. So,
At the same time,
here's what I'm saying. We're running a $500,000 deficit. We are going to be asking the voters for money, and we better make sure that the voters feel appreciated. And I'm just one of them, but I'm just letting you know that issue is out there. So that's the primary comment there. And on displays, yes, I do hold the professional librarians responsible for being sensitive and aware. And if they're just taking lists wholeheartedly from somewhere else, I don't need that. Okay, put a smaller display of things that you yourself can speak to is what I would say. Because, like I said, we have the one book I raised where it literally was a book on the cover quoting Nazi propaganda from World War II, right?
I'm not
It's been
going to
debunked.
engage that.
You Google it, the first thing you find is the whole debunking of that thing, and yet it was there. How it got on the list, I don't know. And I asked you, was that there to titillate?
No,
I hope not. But my point is, that was in the kids section.
it was not in the kids section.
It was the teenagers or kids. It was in the teen space.
It was in the teen section.
Teenagers are children. I just want to be clear. Teenagers are children. In my role, not as a library board, some of the books, if I hand it to my neighbor's son, I quoted the law. I'm committing a crime in Michigan. If I do it in the library, since I'm a board member and it's part of my job, I guess I'm protected by the law. This is not, it was there. Teens are kids. I want to be clear on that.
But it's separate, it was in a separate area which has an age appropriateness to it, and it was on the second floor. It was not in the youth.
Counterfactual history about Nazi propaganda is ever age appropriate for a teenager, but it is what it is. I mean, we could say Lebensraum was about an environmental movement, but
I think I'm at the point, we kind of had this discussion. I think there's different viewpoints. If there's a specific amendment
So I have two
that
more
you
specific
want to
amendments.
make, you can make that.
So I have two
But,
more today.
but I hear this is kind of philosophy, that I don't know how to address as an amendment to the proposed policy, so I'm gonna ask you to do that. I'm gonna ask.
In the future, I'll bring them back to them, and I had two specific ones I just wanted to throw out there.
Okay.
I believe we should strike out the line, however, the library does not have the right to act in loco parentis. That is on page, I apologize, it's under Children's Choice Library Materials, and it's at page 73. So the second sentence of the second paragraph. So we are,
Say it again.
Yes,
the sentence is, however, the library does not have the right to act in loco parentis in place of the parents. I think that sentence is it's not true, and I don't think it actually adds any value to what we're saying.
That's directly from the attorney.
I would think from the attorney's standpoint,
It is.
there's some.
So when we say we don't have the right, what precludes that right? Can we use it in other elements of what we do here?
well, let's take this,
Okay, so
logic.
anyway, that's my amendment to strike that line.
You are asking a motion to delete the second sentence, which reads, however, the library does not have the right to act in local parentis in place. I'll ask the maker of the motion if that's a friendly amendment. To delete that. No. Well, I guess I don't have to ask the seconder of the motion because the maker of the motion does not. Do you want to make it as a motion, not a friendly motion?
Yes.
Okay. It's moved to amend the policy to delete, however, the library does not have the right to act in local parentis in place of is there a second for that motion? The second for the amendment to the policy?
And if I can just make a statement supporting the amendment, explaining why I want to make that amendment. I feel like.
Well, I think you have to have a second. You have to have a second.
Okay.
And could I ask a question? At this point,
You have to get a second.
Have to have a second.
oh, okay. All right.
So there's no second, so we can't amend the policy to delete the second, that sentence. There's no second to that motion. Okay. So now, I think you had a statement and you had a statement, so I'll let you go with your statement first.
Yeah, and again, I don't feel like it adds any value to the thing, and if anything, it just looks like it's CYA language. And
Well, you're talking about the reason for an amendment to a motion that nobody supports. You're out of order.
Yeah.
In that discussion, in that point.
So this paragraph, or what I want to ask is, this was from our legal? Correct. Okay, this was a legal opinion, that's something that should be in there, correct?
Given to us as language to recommend.
Okay,
And,
all right.
and I would say, this is another example of we as trustees are here to protect the library and the staff, and this helps protect the library and the staff.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's no longer an amendment to the motions.
Yeah.
New topic.
Short term, yes. Long term, you may find you're making your place a less friendly place.
Okay.
The next area was in the request for reconsideration of library material. So one of the things I'm very concerned about is the phrase book banning is being used as an ad hominem attack on people. So increasingly banning books, are you a book banner? I even get asked that. Book banning, this thing. And it's used like that way for purpose. We like to harken back to the bonfires of the Weimar Republic and things like that, and that's what they're trying to say, oh, you're one of those guys, right? Now, the reality is, in my mind, a book challenge is part of community involvement with the library. And nobody should ever be made to feel shamed or receive an ad hominem attack because they're exercising their rights. I want to complain about a stop sign, or I want to say we got too many pickleball courts. I think that's a totally welcome statement to make. And along those lines, one thing I was going to say, in reconsideration, I just want to make clear that it's not just banning it or nothing. That's part of the problem, is we're always arguing the two extremes. So I would like to propose, nobody residents may request reconsideration of a selection decision, and I would like to add the subclause, including the labeling, classification, or location placement within the library of an NPL item. So, for example, I think it's not banning to say, hey, you have this thing in the children's section. This is actually an adult book. It could be an inadvertent. I'd be glad that somebody brought it to our attention, right? Or you have Curious George and the adults. No kids are ever going to see this. I challenge your decision. That has to be there as an adult. So I just want to add that I want to allow people to realize that there are lower levels. You're not just banning a book because you are concerned about something. Same thing. Tomorrow somebody may turn around and say, hey, how come you didn't label the Chronicles of Narnia as Christian fiction? It never historically hasn't been. If it was written today, it probably would be. I'm just saying people have the right to do that. And that's not book banning, but that's a reasonable type of a challenge. And I think those things are. So I just want to give people the chance to challenge without banning some of the things that they're seeing in the library. And so again, the subclause I would add is, after the word decision, comma, including the labeling.
Where are we? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, can we,
Sorry.
yes, there's a lot of paragraphs here.
So we're under request for reconsideration of library material. The first paragraph, second sentence. Novi residents may request reconsideration of a selection decision, and I would say comma, including the labeling, classification, or location placement.
That's all part of it. I mean, when someone does a request for reconsideration, they're looking, that reconsideration is based on whatever they need it to be.
Right, but even earlier in this same meeting, it was referred to as book banning in this section. So I just want to enumerate the rights that people have, that there is an ability to influence the library without being sued. So,
I think we're comfortable with that already. I think it speaks to
I
that.
think it's a rather innocuous amendment myself. But,
I don't see the word book ban in that paragraph. I think
don't
you
either.
added that.
it's been said 3 times in this
But
meeting earlier.
not in this paragraph. In this
No, it's not
paragraph.
that.
Well, in this paragraph, except,
Right.
but it says, the library accepts expression of opinion from guests concerning materials selected for the collection. Novi residents may request reconsideration of a selection decision. I think you have tied that to a
No, I
book
have
ban,
not, actually.
but I
It's the
don't
ALA,
think it's
right?
in that
So-
language.
So the
That's not-
ALA has something called Banned Book Week, which we celebrate every year. If you go 2 paragraphs into the ALA's page, banned books are actually not technically banned. They're just books that have been challenged or requested for reconsideration.
But we don't have that in here.
So we actually use that term banning of a book in our library. We just had banned book week this past.
We didn't call it that. We called it freedom to read.
No, it was in the, one of the things that came out. So, it referred to ALA's banned book week, and we call ours freedom to read, which I'm pleased.
That is what we called it.
But we referred to the ALA's banned in,
Well, they're an organization we refer to, but
and
we
we
called
called
it
it
that.
banned book week. That's my whole point. So it's the ad hominem attack.
I think that's, I think you're splitting hairs.
So all these changes we're doing are splitting hairs. I mean, there is nothing in this entire change the policy that couldn't be classified as CYA. Otherwise the library is well run. None of this stuff really needs new policies. But, so anyway, that's, my proposal is including the label, giving people the right to challenge those things, especially since we're reserving our right to labeling. Obviously, people have a right to challenge it, so.
Okay, I'm gonna try to pick up your, after the word selection decision, add what words?
Comma, including the labeling, classification, or locational plate.
Including the,
What's the word you use, Julie, for where something is in the library?
We don't use labeling, we use sticker.
Okay, stickers, classification.
But we already addressed stickers here, already in the policy.
Yeah, but
classification.
you're saying I have a right to challenge it. You've decided it's Christian fiction. I'm saying it's not.
But you can already do that from,
It's not explicitly clear.
Including,
Can I ask one question?
classification.
One question. What is on the request for reconsideration library form?
I
We're
don't-
already sending
yeah.
people to a form that they have to fill out.
Right.
If this information is on the form, it doesn't need to be here.
Okay,
Yep.
so does that form exist? Does that say?
we do have a form, but I don't have it with me.
We don't have those words on the form.
What I would like to do is I would like to get trustee Sherker's language,
Yes.
and then we'll talk about it, we'll talk about
Okay.
it as either a friendly amendment or a proposed amendment. I don't think it's gonna pass, but you have that right to do that, and I just wanna get the words right. Including the stickering, classification,
And what's the word you guys use for placement within a certain part of the collection?
and placement.
I'm asking Julie, what's the best word to use there?
I'll accept placement for now because I like a moment to review things. I feel we're doing these on the fly.
Okay.
It's not normally
Okay.
what we do.
And
Okay.
fair enough, and
Trustees
I'm also
are
fine
very,
bringing,
take time.
Okay.
so I'm also fine bringing this back next month, if you prefer not to consider right now.
Friendly amendment?
No.
Okay, it's not a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Okay,
So I will
do
submit
you wanna move it as the regular amendment to the policy, to the proposed policy?
I'll move it next month since Julie would like to review it, so.
I-
And I'll give me a chance to review our form, so if our form makes it clear, I don't need to make the amendment,
Okay.
probably in the next one point. So.
Okay, so it's not a friendly amendment and you're not making the motion?
I'm with you.
Okay.
No, that's for now.
That's all? Okay. I cut you off earlier, trustee Crawford. I don't know if you remember what you were gonna say when I cut you off, but I wanna give you
I'm
the opportunity.
trying to think what that was, because I've had other thoughts since then. I mean, because to me, to this last point that you brought up, the reconsideration of a selection decision, that sort of encompasses, it could encompass placement, it could encompass anything, any question. And I would just want to tell you, Siri, that everything that the city does, there's a process, and this form that you may think could intimidate some people, it may, but it is a process that you fill out a form. If you have a challenge about a book, about where its selection is or wherever it is, you fill out the form. And it's the same with everything, with Parks and Rec. If you have a problem with a coach or if you have a problem somewhere, there's a process in place to do that. Some people may be intimidated by that, and they certainly are welcome to come and speak in audience participation, or they can come anytime and talk to Julie. I mean, she's welcome. She's always open to people talking to her, or people can write us a letter, whatever. So I don't want people to think that we demand that they fill out a form for every single thing. There's a process in place that makes it easier for us to understand what their problem is. And then it can be addressed with staff, and they can discuss it also. So, that was just the point that I wanted to make, is it's part of the process to fill out a form.
Well, no, fair enough, and if the form informs them that these other half measures, I'm trying to right now what's happening is so many things in American politics.
Yeah, but this is Novi Library that we're talking about here. We're not concerned.
We are probably more indicative of America as a whole than any other community I can think of based on our modern demographics, but it's, we tend to argue at the extremes. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to take it out of, you know, and that's, and this is a point, I feel it's important.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you bring things up. I mean, because that's good. I mean, it's good discussion and everything, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, I mean, we know that the publishers have a much different value than, I mean, there's a lot of stuff being put in front of kids. Like, if you look at what qualifies as TV, Y7, and Netflix, most of us would be shocked. The modern answer is they're a private company, they can do what they want. Sadly, that's true right now, right? So, you know, I maintain that the library is my philosophy has always been one thing: the library is the center, and the center has to hold. It's what keeps us together. You know, if you go back to the Patmos Library was shut down not for a book ban. The request was simply that something be put, and that's a very conservative community, something be put so where that people would request it for the library. Even if you wanted to have that community discussion as a half measure versus risking a shutdown, would that not have been a reasonable point? Nobody asked for the book to be removed from the library. Okay? They simply said, we don't want this thing front and center where the little kids could get it. Have it there where the kids can ask for it, or the library can give it to the kid. The library can give it to the children requesting.
And that can be done in this process. If someone
Fair enough.
requests,
And I'm just saying,
move it from this section to that can be done. That's
Sure.
provided for.
No, fair enough, and I just want to make sure that people explicitly know that too. That you're not a book banner because you think something should be teenager instead of 10-year-old.
We're not even gonna say banning. We're not
It's,
saying
but sadly enough, Google it. It's said every day to be against people everywhere. It becomes so de rigueur, you know?
Okay, where are we?
Well, we have a motion. It's been seconded. We're in the process of discussion. I think you've raised all the points you wanted to raise. Any points any of the trustees that haven't had a chance to talk yet want to make? No. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Trustee Gurmurti. Trustee Stirring.
Yes.
Trustee Bartlett votes yes. Trustee Chair Curry.
No.
Trustee Crawford.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Oh, thank you. Forgot.
Oh, Trustee Kualalapu.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 5-1. Sorry.
Okay.
That was easy.
I got to get back to the right page here. You almost lost your precedent on this one. Item C, approve the closure of the library at 5 p.m. on Friday, December 8, 2023, to allow staff to attend the annual evening of appreciation hosted by the city of Novi. I'll entertain a motion. It's been moved by,
I can go second.
been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Secretary, would you call the roll?
Trustee Stirring.
Yes.
Trustee Bartlett votes yes. Trustee Chair Curry.
Yes.
Trustee Crawford.
Yes.
Trustee Kualalapu.
Yes.
Trustee Gurmurti.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Item D, this is a request to approve the security camera and server recommendation by the staff and the Building and Grounds Committee for a not-to-exceed amount of $68,838 with Centennial Technologies, Inc.
I would like to give some update. On October 18th, we met with the staff, and it looks like it's a bit urgent. The security cameras are not working, and the security server is down. And Mike, I think Jeff has taken, borrowed a server
Yes.
for time being, but that needs to be given back soon. So we have to, as soon as possible, we need to get this server up and running. And this is based on the cloud, which which is really good. And there are a few questions we have raised. And if you see in the page number 78,
I can answer some of those questions for you if you'd like. So for number one, there is no need to worry. The current vendor that we were working with for the loaner has continued to allow us to have that loaner and should be able to work with us through the date of the new company taking over with the new equipment.
Very
So we had a
nice.
very,
Very
yes,
great.
so that's just
Excellent.
occurred since your meeting. Number two, the RFP was for 5 years for the license. So I wanted to make sure that that language, it was clear that we would put it out, therefore we have to acknowledge it for that. I believe there was a conversation, I know I wasn't there that evening, but you had that conversation and discussed that.
The committee understood it was a
Yes.
5-year license.
5 years, yes, yeah.
Yes.
But actually, if you take for 10 years, the price will decrease.
We have to go with currently what the language was put in the RFP, so we have to follow that. I
That,
can't
okay.
look for something longer or change the direction of what was put in place in the RFP.
But I think we did ask if we could have, what would be the price for either 10-year or an additional 5-year option on it. And I don't think that would violate the spirit of the RFP. So the purpose of the, I mean, as I understand it, the purpose of the RFP is so it's a apples-to-apples comparison.
Correct.
That legally other vendors can review and understand. Modest changes within that based on circumstance or modest tweaks and things like that, contractual language, that doesn't violate the RFP process per se. So I thought it would be good at least to either get a 5-year option. That's why we just want to see what the numbers
We just
look
want to see the numbers,
So, okay, so I can, all right, I can continue to do that for you then. I can get that from the actual vendor that would be providing that going forward.
Correct,
Yes,
yeah. And
Okay.
either ask a 10-year price or
Thank you.
or a
Yes.
option for a 5-year extension.
thank you. Okay, great.
But the motion that's on the floor right
Yes.
now is for not to exceed
Correct.
$68,838 with a 5-year license.
It is, correct.
Yes.
Number three,
But obviously, based on what she finds out, she thinks, hey, we should quickly talk about this again. That would be appropriate.
Well, but then if it's less, then we have already got a motion not to exceed.
right.
And obviously,
All I can provide is informational purposes, so I would be doing that. I'd be giving you that information for information purposes.
Okay.
Let's see, would it be possible to annualize the
the same
subscriptions? Yeah, same, yeah,
Same.
right. Number four, can we find a way to get Centennial to move quickly? Yes. So tonight, based on the decision, we already have contract language in draft, but ready to move very quickly. And in their RFP, they did say that if they knew quickly, which we're ready to act tomorrow, they would be able to meet the end of the year by 12/31 to 23. So that's,
So
yes.
back to number 3, I didn't understand your answer to that. So the idea behind number 3 was SaaS, software as a service or whatever is generally done on a subscription basis. Also from a budgeting standpoint, what I didn't want to do was create a 4-year memory hole because we did a single payment. So if we could recognize, or even if it's a prepaid, we should recognize the expense as we amortize it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
What you don't want to have is
right,
suddenly 4 years from now, some new board is trying,
Right.
what do you mean we got to suddenly pay 20 grand or whatever? the
right.
city-
No. Yep, okay, that makes sense. Yep. Okay. And I think that answers everything. Yes, great, thank you. Yes.
Go ahead, Maria.
If I think about the cloud, so it looks like Workada is a good one. Solution. So in ACOM, TSG, and Sentiment, so what was the reason or why didn't you choose the ACOM?
The committee asked that question of Jeff, and the reason was, Intercom gave a number, but it didn't follow the request to disclose the materials that were being provided.
Correct.
In essence, they didn't respond
They
to the
didn't.
request for the
Request, yeah.
proposal, because they said, we'll provide some cameras, but they
Right.
didn't say which ones or anything else.
So
it-
they-
It basically wasn't.
They did not
Details,
follow up.
details were
They did
left.
not give us the details.
Yeah, the details were left, unfortunately,
Yeah, the price is less, but the
Yes.
cost is less, but.
right.
Yep.
But they didn't provide enough information. And we have to look at them all at the same, we can't reach out and get additional information. So that's, you hope that we ask the questions and we ask them to provide specific things and, yeah.
And actually, can I give a shout out to Jeff? He did one thing that I thought was really good, which is he separated the hardware purchase decision from the software as a service and verified what linkages there were or what our obligations would be beyond.
Correct.
Yep.
And to his credit, he said,
Yes.
we will be owning, so just for the other board, we'll be owning the cameras free and clear. If we decide decide that Verkada is not a great cloud thing, this can be migrated to any cloud.
Any
Correct.
cloud, any cloud.
Or even
Correct.
an inside server.
Yes, you're correct.
I think the committee was very, and I'm not a geek, and I admit I'm not a geek, but I think we were all very impressed with the detail that
Details,
Jeff gave us and the explanation, even though me, for example, that it's all like a foreign language.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that because both Jeff and Denise, who are new to our organization and the IT department, you know, they've come on very quickly to get to know what we are and what we do in order to put some of these big projects in place, and they did give of their time and of their expertise. So I appreciate you recognizing that. But yes, they did put a lot of time into this. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions on the motion? It's been moved and seconded.
Yes.
So that ends the discussion. I'll ask,
No, there is no motion.
No, we have not made a motion yet.
we didn't make a motion yet?
No.
No,
I'm
not yet.
sorry.
No, Ajita basically,
We were just discussing.
Ajita reviewed the committee, so we have not made a motion yet.
Thank you, Ajita.
But I will make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Thank you.
My ear.
Thank you.
Thank you for correcting.
No, that was
Somehow
good
we got
feedback.
discussion without the
Good
motion.
feedback, yes, good feedback.
Now we have no further discussion because we've already discussed it. Secretary, we call the roll.
Trustee Chair Curry.
Yes.
Trustee Crawford.
Yes.
Trustee Gawalapu.
Yes,
Trustee Gurmurti.
Yes.
Trustee Stirring.
Yes.
Trustee Bartlett votes yes. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
I will just note the communications in our packet, an email to Ben Manecki, Nicole Carter, and Victor Cardenas regarding after-school crowds at the library, and the email to Jeff Smith and the Board of Trustees regarding PC information security concern. Those are respectively on pages 93 through 95. With that, I will entertain a motion. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to make a comment on Jeff Smith's notion on deep freeze. Because of my geekiness, I had to ask for more information on deep freeze. If there's a general interest in what his response was, which went into quite a bit of detail on it, I'll include it in the board minutes for next meeting. But he gave a very deep, as far as what cookies were deleted, what things were deleted, so that people don't. My main concern was people don't log into, somebody was in their financial accounts, they don't jump in and they're logged into the financial accounts.
it was
again.
only one machine, the configuration was not done properly.
So he gave me a very detailed
Yep.
explanation
Yeah.
on how deep freeze works. It's quite
Yep.
good.
As he did
So-
at the committee.
Yeah.
yes.
On the day
and
also
it,
we asked
and it
him.
is our process to be cleaning out after each user. So,
Yes.
yes, we want to make sure that everyone knows that we are trying to be very, very cognizant of their information and privacy. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Don't forget all the major things going on. I tried to give you, as you can see, your future events, big list. I highlighted things and bolded things. Budget meetings and things like that are now in there. So make sure you see those. I believe they've been put on calendars as well, just to keep you all in the loop. Lots of events happening. Thank you.
Our meeting next month is a week early.
It is a week
Good.
early, and it's
Because of
at the
Thanksgiving.
library. It won't be here. So, yes.
And that's
And-
the true for the December meeting as well, will be at the library.
Yes. Very good presence during.
We got a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. You do- Oh,
Yes.
she seconded. Okay. Moved and seconded.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.